Hey friends, welcome back to some more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, Karens, and all that kind of stuff. So as usual, let's jump right into today's Reddit posts. Daughter's hair cut off in school, suspended for injuring boy who did it. Daughter, year 9, is dealing with other people hassling her in school. Every few weeks it gets started back up again and then dies down. It started last year and hasn't stopped at all. Some scrapping, insults, and hassle in school. They started pushing at her outside of school too. They stalk her online presence via Discord and game servers she plays online. She has told me they have raided communities she goes to and try to make her look responsible. A few times in the last year we have had our windows egged, and sometimes they knock on the door and run, which stresses my wife, who is disabled. I went after one of them to scare them off once and hit them with a Coke can, which made the house stuff die down. My daughter has warned them several times, but they won't stop. She did at first react to it too much, but after chats she toned it down and tried to ignore, as feeding trolls doesn't help. Gave her good advice for online presence, etc. It had mostly died off until this week in class. One of these kids grabbed her ponytail and cut part of it off with some scissors while sat behind her. She was very upset by this and turned around, grabbed his hair and slammed his head into the desk a few times. The teacher's assistant intervened, got between them, and sent my daughter to isolation. The boy got a busted nose and mouth and was sent home because he was bleeding. I got a phone call from the school to collect her, telling me there had been a serious incident. I was explained the situation by the deputy head and then by her. They have suspended her and have asked for a meeting next week to discuss what happens next. They have said that the police may be involved, but I don't know anything beyond that. There should be documented history, as this boy has a history of bothering her, along with some others where I have asked the school to take action. He has crossed the line before, as he will make comments about my wife's disability to our daughter, and once grabbed her backside last month, which my daughter couldn't prove. I have already argued with the deputy head that I gave them a chance to deal with it, and that they cannot be surprised when my daughter does some damage to someone who crosses a line. They have said my attitude is unhelpful and obstructive, but I have said while I agree it's not normal to give people a bloody nose, you can't have someone harass someone and not expect consequences. Making several horse riders pick up their horse's poop. I'm a 26-year-old male and the other people involved are anywhere from 16 to 50. I live in an area with a lot of horse riders. It is frankly rather annoying, as I honestly don't think there are many people as inconsiderate as horse people. They generally use dog walk areas, the beach, walk routes, or bicycle lanes as routes to ride their horses, resulting in horse poop everywhere, literally everywhere. And that is despite the overabundance of horse paths in my area. I'd go as far as to say there are more horse paths than walking paths. Now, I own a small home with a sizable garden attached to a woodland area, part of which is also mine. We are not allowed to place fences to allow the wildlife to freely roam the area. Now, the wooded area is not very densely wooded, and as a result, it is often used by locals as a dog walking area. Kids play there a lot, and unfortunately, horse riders use it as a quick and scenic route to get to the nearby beach. Now, as a result of this, homeowners like myself have to deal with a lot of lost people appearing in our yards, despite ample signs stating it is private property. That leads us to what this is about. Now, I tend to come home from work and find random horse crap in my yard. I have spoken to a bunch of riders that I caught in the act. It is frustrating and frankly rather rude, and 2 weeks ago I caught a bunch in the act once again. I had spoken to them twice before. They appeared from the wooded area into my yard. 2 of the horses left a giant pile of crap, and I went outside to speak to them. Now, after a bit of an argument with the 5 horse riders, they apologized and wanted to ride off. But I was like, F this, I am not cleaning this up again. And I essentially told them either they take the horse poop with them, or I am going to call the cops for trespassing since I am sick of it. Eventually, 3 of them got off and asked for bags and a shovel. I said it isn't my problem how they get it out of here, as long as they do, and went inside as I had to get to work. Well, I later found out, instead of going back to their stable, grabbing a bag and a shovel and cleaning the crap up, these morons, special people, literally picked up the poop and put it in a backpack owned by one of the riders. Turns out my girlfriend is friends with one of these riders, specifically the poop backpack one, and the girl in question complained to my girlfriend. My girlfriend chewed into me about being a petty a-hole and I had a laughing fit. Woman follows me around in a store and then asks if I have a tumor or if I'm just fat. I'm pregnant. This happened to me a few weeks ago. I'm 22 weeks pregnant now, but I was around 17 weeks when this happened. I am a chubby person, but I also have a really tiny frame, and I'm quite short, so my baby bump became noticeable very quickly. I'm insecure about my weight and always have been, so the moment I had a bump, I started resting a hand on my stomach in hopes people wouldn't look at me funny. Didn't work, obviously. As I was making my way into a local Walmart to pick up a few small items, I noticed a woman in her late 60s to early 70s staring me down. I'm a very observant person, so things don't go unnoticed by me easily. I brushed it off. I have severe social anxiety and I'm more of a hermit than anything, so human interaction is something I do my best to avoid. Therefore, I have to constantly remind myself to stay calm and ignore those around me as long as they aren't being suspicious. Well, this lady proceeds to follow me back into the store. It looked like she was leaving as I was entering. I did my best to ignore her and just made the assumption that she forgot to grab something. Nope, she was deliberately following me to each aisle I was going to. At this point, I'm starting to get annoyed. I may have social anxiety, but due to being raised by an aggressive Gen X father, assertive Gen X mother, and having grown up with 4 older brothers, I know how to handle confrontation. I started making my way towards the exit and she was still following me, so I stepped into an aisle and turned around to face her as she came around the corner. "Can I help you?" She looked a little surprised that I was waiting for her, but then immediately started with, "Do you have a stomach tumor or are you just fat?" I almost choked because what the hell? "Are you f***ing serious?" was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I may have been annoyed before, but now I was thoroughly pissed. It's very obvious I'm pregnant. But she repeated her question as if I was the one inconveniencing her. I've never been ugly to a stranger before, let alone someone much older than me. I was raised in the South, so obviously taught respect your elders, but I've also learned that one should never allow anyone to disrespect you simply because they're older. So my response was, "Even though it's none of your f***ing business, I am pregnant. So how f***ing dare you follow me around the store to ask me a f***ing idiotic question like that? If you don't f***ing turn around and walk away from me right the f*** now, I will absolutely punch the shit out of you." She looked like I had already punched her, and turned around huffing and gasping with shock while quickly making her exit, as if I was the one who rudely offended her. I cursed her out, but I was too flabbergasted to think of anything else to say or do. Calling the police on my sister after she snuck shellfish into my food. I, 21 female, and my sister, 23, have never had any issues until last week. She and her husband, 23, had invited me over for a lunch, which is normal for us. I have a severe shellfish allergy. Even touching it makes me extremely itchy. My sister is completely aware of this, and has been since we were children. When I got to their house, she said that food was already finished and in the fridge. She claimed that it was just a tuna pasta. Yes, I can eat tuna and many other fish, just nothing with a shell. After she finished cleaning up, we had a short conversation about what's been happening in our lives since it's been a while since we'd seen each other. I got this strange feeling from her but just brushed it off as I was extremely tired that day. She grabbed the food out of the fridge and served it for me, giving me a small bowl, quote, "in case I don't like it." I couldn't smell much of it, and from what I could smell, I just assumed it was fish. But when I took a bite, I almost immediately felt my throat burning. I was coughing and grabbing at my throat, and her husband kept asking me if I was choking. My sister turned to me panicking and saying, "I thought you were exaggerating." An ambulance was called and I was rushed to the hospital. I was thankfully okay, but they had me stay to be monitored for the next 2 days. My sister and brother-in-law had tried to visit me, but I told her to get out. She kept apologizing and refusing to leave. I told her that I'll be calling the police on her for what she'd done, as it's literally attempted murder and she lost it. She kept screaming at me, saying, "I know you're faking this. You always act like you're allergic to shellfish, so I wanted to test you." I'd been pressing the call button for the nurse, but they heard her regardless, and had asked me if I wanted them removed, so I said yes. I explained the whole situation to her and the hospital security, and eventually decided that with the help of the nurse and security guards, I'd file a report against her. My mother is saying I'm overreacting and that I should have just cut contact, but I don't know anymore. Well, I did it. I called the cops, had the nurse that was a witness make a statement, and I'm filing for a protection order if it's the least I can do. Yard mowed by mistake, and they want me to pay? My neighbor has had a paid lawn service for years. We mow our yard ourselves. The lawn service came out today to mow, but mowed our lawn instead by accident. I was ready to thank them and give them a tip, but the rep was angry at me. They are insisting that we owe for services, though we never asked for the lawn to be mowed. They are claiming, since I was home at the time, I work remotely most days, that it is my fault for not coming out to stop them sooner. Edit to add, no, I did not watch them mow my yard. I was working and making calls during the time. I happened to get up when they were on the last strip and saw them mowing. I grabbed some cash for a tip and ran out to inform them of the mistake at that point. When the rep started to get angry and yell at me, I stuffed the cash back into my pocket and refused to tip. I refused to give my personal info as demanded for them to process payment. I told them I would contact the company tomorrow morning, but I am on the clock and would be returning to work. I called the company this morning and was told the mistake was theirs. They apologized for the rep's behavior and offered a discounted rate if I chose to use their services in the future, which after this hassle I will not be doing. I went outside to play with the dog during my lunch break. The neighbor who should have been mowed yesterday, Marvin, came over to give me the scoop. Marvin's nephew works for the lawn care company and is normally the one that mows Marvin's yard. The nephew was out yesterday, so a newer guy picked up Marvin's yard. Apparently the newer guy has made this mistake a few times now, often enough that he was worried he would lose his job over it, which is why he tried to bully me into payment. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching. Make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit content. So I'm out of here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.